All right, we're continuing with the study of Hinduism relative to how well it measures up to a normal approach using reading methods, language, context, and logic that we learned in school. So far, we find it falls short. So contrary to what Hindu writings maintain, a proposition that they might propose, or any proposition, is true if there is a correspondence between the beliefs expressed by it and the facts. Otherwise, it is false. There's certain things that you can't prove, but by and large, a lot of things you can. And if it doesn't hold up consistency and corroboration, then it's not a trustworthy writing. Same thing as a newspaper article or point of view. So the point worth noting is that though popular, Hinduism is a theistic religion, it is not essential to believe in the existence of God for being an Orthodox Hindu or not. Belief in the authority of the Vedas is more important. The Vedas is not a valid source of knowledge. It hasn't been proved. The truth or falsity of a proposition is logically independent of its being contained or not contained in the Vedas. The proposition is true if there is a correspondence between the belief expressed by it and the facts. Otherwise, it is false, especially if multiple people come up with so many different interpretations that contradict with one another. It's of little value. Finally, some propositions contained in the Vedas are certainly false. For example, according to the Purusha Sukta of Rig Veda, Brahmins and the others here originated respectfully from the mouth, hands, thighs, and feet of the Purusha or the Creator. VARNA-VYAVASTHA is a man-made social institution, and it has nothing to do with the alleged creator of the world. There's no evidence to support any of that. Vedas could not have come into existence before human beings appeared on this earth and before Sanskrit knowledge came into existence. There are no good reasons for believing that Sanskrit language came into existence even before human beings appeared on this earth. For what would be the purpose of a language which is not required to be used by anyone before man existed? Gandhi opposed the infallibility of the Vedas and reserved the right to select what he wanted from it as true. That doesn't make it any better. As far as Gandhi is concerned, though he liked to describe himself as the Sanatani Hindu, he was in fact not a completely orthodox Hindu at all. Gandhi said, "I do not believe in the exclusive divinity of the Vedas. I believe the Bible, the Quran, and the Avesta to be as much divinely inspired as the Vedas, because they're all contradictory with one another. And your beliefs don't make anything better or worse. Facts do. My belief in the Hindu scriptures does not require me to accept every word and every verse as divinely inspired. I decline to be bound by any interpretation, however learned it may be. If it's not true, how could it be learned? If it is repugnant to reason or moral sense, especially, he says. I seriously doubt that this position will be acceptable to an Orthodox Hindu. In fact, Gandhi's position comes very close to that of rationalists and humanists when he says that I decline to be bound by any interpretation, however learned it may be, if it is repugnant to reason and moral sense. Well, whose reason and whose moral sense? However, since he refused to say in so many words that he did not believe in the authority of the Vedas, Gandhi may be described, in my opinion, as a liberal Hindu with an eclectic approach towards religion. So we have Varna-VYAVASTHA is arbitrary and cruelly unfair, even brutal. Unlike the Bible, Hinduism is not to be based on reason, logic, grace, justice, and holiness. No critical viewpoint is permitted. It is a dictatorial and cruel religion with a caste system that causes arbitrary and cruel persecution and punishment. We've already noted that the first reference to Varna, the class based on birth or caste, is to be found in the Purusha Sukta of the Rig Veda. The reference to the 4 ashrams, or stages of life, namely these 4 here, hesitate to pronounce them, I'm sure I'm pronouncing them incorrectly, is to be found in the Upanishads. These are, in their turn, related to the 4 Purusathas, or ends of life, namely dharma, duty, artha, wealth, kama, satisfaction or sensual desires, and moksha, liberation. Why aren't there more? Why aren't there less? What do these mean? Out of these, the Upanishads attach maximum value to sannyas ashram and moksha purusha artha, which is regarded as the highest end of life. By whom? The system of varna-shram and dharma is upheld by popular Hindu scriptures like these three. In Ramayana, for example, Ram kills Shambhuka simply because he was performing ascetic exercises, tapasya. Why? Which he was not supposed to do as he was a Shudra by birth. Wow. Sociopathic to me. Similarly, in these two areas, these two refused to teach archery to Eklavya because he was not a Kishore by birth. When the Eklavya treated Drona as his notional guru, learns archery on his own, Drona makes him cut his right thumb as Guru's Dashkina gift for the teacher so that he may not become a better archer than his favorite student, Arjuna. The much glorified Bhagavad Gita too favors VARNA-VYAVASTHA. When Arjuna refuses to fight, one of the main worries was that the war would lead to the birth of Varna Sankaras, or offspring, from intermixing of different Varnas and the consequent downfall of the family. Such a trivial set of ideas of no value, especially to the people that it hurts. On the other hand, Krishna tries to motivate Arjuna to fight by saying that it was his Varna Dharma, caste duty, to do so because he was a Kshatriya. In fact, Krishna goes to the extent of claiming that the four Varnas were created by him only. Thus, Arjuna's main problem was being born a Kshatriya. Had he been a Brahmin, or a Vaishya, or a Shudra by birth, he would have been spared the trouble of fighting a destructive war. Wow, how trivial. Even the much applauded doctrine of Nishkama karma is nothing but an exhortation to faithfully perform one's Varnashriya dharma in a disinterested manner. The celebrated Orthodox Hindu theologian Shankar, too, was a supporter of Varna-Vyavasthha. According to him, Shudras are not entitled to philosophical knowledge. Wow. However, the most elaborate exposition of Varnashram Dharma is to be found in Manusmriti, an important Dharma Shastra of Hindus. I don't know what these words mean, but it's the obvious superficiality and contradictory quality of this religion goes beyond what one would want to bear and consider as valid. Let us turn to it in order to have a close look at the Varna-Vyavasthha. Manusmriti, in the very first chapter of Manusmriti, it is clearly stated that these four were created by Brahma, creator of this world, from his mouth, hands, thighs, and feet respectively. What does that even mean? Manu claims that the same Brahma who created this world also created Manusmriti and taught it to him. The duties of the different Varnas are also mentioned in the Manusmriti. The Brahmins were created for teaching, studying, performing vajnas, ceremonial sacrifices, getting jnanas performed, giving and accepting dan or gifts. It sounds like you have to learn Hindu or some other ancient language in order to understand any of this. The Kshatriyas were created for protecting the citizens, giving gifts, giving jnanas, performing and studying. The Vaishyas were created for protecting animals, giving gifts, getting vajnas performed, studying, trading, lending money on interest, and doing agricultural work. The Shudras were created by Brahma for serving Brahmins and the other two Varnas without being critical of them. It is interesting to note that studying, getting jnanas performed, and giving gifts or charity are common duties of Brahmins and Kshatriyas and Vaishyas, whereas teaching, accepting gifts, and performing jnanas are reserved exclusively for Brahmins. Why? There's no reason given for these things. The Shudras, of course, are denied the rights to study, while getting jnanas are performed by Brahmins or giving gifts to them. Manusmriti further states that having originated from the mouth of Brahma, being elder, and being the repository of the Vedas, Brahmins are the masters of the entire universe. Besides, Brahmins alone act as a sort of post office for transmitting food to the gods and the dead. What do the dead need food for? That is to say, the gods and the dead eat food through the mouths of Brahmins, apparently because they do not have mouths of their own. Therefore, this is just like a comic book strip or something, except it wouldn't sell very much. Therefore, no one can be superior to Brahmins. All others are said to enjoy everything owing to the Brahmins' mercy. Manusmriti clearly states that the Brahmins alone are entitled to teach this Dharma Shastra and none else. The Manusmriti refers to the Vedas, which are to be regarded as the main valid source of knowledge about Dharma as Shruti, and to Dharma Shratas as Smriti. I don't even understand what this is trying to tell me. No one is to argue critically about them because religion has originated from them. And so, who are they to say? Any Nashtika, non-believer or critic of the Vedas who insults them on the basis of logic, that's me, is worthy of being socially boycotted by noble persons. I don't see them as very noble and hypocritical. So, unlike the Bible, Hinduism is not to be based on logic, upon pain of punishment, and no critical viewpoint is permitted. A dictatorial and cruel religion that is not based on reason, with a caste system that causes arbitrary and cruel persecution and punishment. So if you want to get ahead in society, choose the right religion, and then you're allowed to persecute everybody else, as long as you don't have any concern. You have to be sociopathic. In short, the main features of Chaturvarnya, as elaborated in Manusmriti, are as follows. Division of Hindu society into 4 Varnas on the basis of birth. Out of these, only the first 3, namely Brahmins, Kshatriya, and Vaishya, who are collectively known as Dvija, twice born, are entitled to Upanyanam and the study of the Vedas. Shudras, as well as women of Dvija Varnas, are denied the right to study. Wow. Want to pain to death or what? Assigning different duties and occupations for different Varnas. This is to be enforced strictly by the king. According to Manusmriti, if a person of lower caste adopts the occupation of a higher caste, the king ought to deprive him of all his property and expel him from his kingdom. How nice. Treating Brahmins as superior in other Varnas, namely these 3, as inferior to him in descending order, with the Shudra occupying the bottom of the hierarchy. A Brahmin is to be treated as God and respected even if he's ignorant. If he's God, how come he's ignorant? Even a 100-year-old Kshatriya is to treat a 10-year-old Brahmin as his father. Brahmin alone is entitled to teach. If he doesn't know anything, how is he going to teach? If a Shudra dares to give moral lessons to a Brahmin, the king is to get him punished by pouring hot oil in his ear and mouth. Wow. Similarly, if a Shudra occupies the same seat as Brahmin, he is to be punished by branding his waist with a hot iron, or getting his buttocks cut. Treating women as unequal. Women, that is, even women belonging to Brahmin, Kshatriya, and Vaishya, Upanyaman and service of their husbands is equivalent to the study of the Vedas in the Gurukha Hill. This is all foreign language. Why they're explaining it this way, just have to accept it, and if you get a hot wax poured in your ear, so what? Even if the husband is morally degraded, engaged in an affair with another woman, and is devoid of knowledge and other qualities, the wife must treat him like a god. Oh, that's good. A widower is allowed to remarry, but a widow is not. Besides, women are not considered fit for being free and independent. They are to be protected in their childhood by father, and in youth by husband, and in old age by son. They should never be allowed by their guardians to act independently. A woman must never do anything, even inside her home, without the consent of her father, husband, and son, respectively. She must remain in control of her father in childhood, of husband in youth, and of son after the death of her husband. Treating different Varnas as equal for legal purposes. The Hindu law as codified by Manu is based on the principle of inequality. The punishment for a particular crime is not the same for all Varnas. In fact, the punishment varies depending upon the Varna of the victim, as well as the Varna of the person committing the crime. For the same crime, Brahmin is to be given a mild punishment, whereas the